Right, hi, ladies and gents. Welcome to episode 10 of the podcast. So we are into double figures. So thank you for all your support, for watching, listening, and for all your feedback. I really appreciate it. And we're just going to carry on firing out some more episodes every week. And at some point, we'll get to 100, and then we'll get to 1,000. Who knows? But really appreciate it. So thank you very much. The previous episode, which was on Sunday just gone, that was about the benefits of aqua-based exercises. Hope you enjoyed that and found it insightful. What I'm going to do today is like a bonus episode because it's a Wednesday. Is that a few of you sent me in some questions a few days ago on the Instagram, so I'm just going to read them out on this episode, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. So we'll get straight into it. Tom White has asked me, will Arsenal bottle it? So cheers for that question. Really appreciate you asking me that. So will Arsenal bottle it? I think in reality we already have, because yes, we lost 2-1 to Man City last week. I actually thought we played quite well against City, to be honest. I thought we were unlucky to not at least come away with a draw because we hit the post twice, especially like that Eze chance, which was so unlucky. And then, Donnarumma made a very good save, although I will admit that Gabriel was ridiculously lucky not to get sent off, and I don't know what he was thinking. But I think to be fair, like the damage was already done like several weeks ago, when we were 2-0 up away to bottom of the league Wolves, and then all of a sudden the players just decided to shit themselves basically, and just you just look at them full of fear, and we let Wolves back into it, and it became a Desmond 2-2 in the end. And then we drew to Forest as well, and then a couple of weeks ago we lost at home to Bournemouth. And don't get me wrong, Bournemouth are a very good team and I like their manager, but we were absolutely dreadful and we completely deserved to lose. I just think, like, for whatever reason, the whole bottle job narrative, and are we going to crumble, are we going to come short, the fact that we're about to finish there's a very good chance that we're going to have another season where we've led for so much of it and yet we'll end up finishing second in the end. I just think it's like a massive burden on the players' shoulders, and for whatever reason they let it get to them in a negative way. I can't really criticize them because I'm not a professional athlete. I don't have a clue what it's like to be in their shoes. But obviously we beat Newcastle today 1-0. I'm recording this on Sunday, by the way, even though you listen to this on Wednesday. But we beat Newcastle 1-0. We played pretty poorly, I have to say, and we were very lucky because Wissa definitely should have buried his chance. But it's painful to watch. I can't remember the last time I actually enjoyed watching Arsenal play, to be honest with you. But City are just too good, especially at this business end of the season. I think ifs and buts. If we had beaten Wolves, instead of throwing it away, if we'd beat Forest and if we'd played to our full potential and beat Bournemouth, then that's 7 points right there. And then the City game last week wouldn't have really mattered. So like I say, if your auntie had balls, she'd be your uncle. So there's no point in talking about ifs and buts. I'm sure every team could come up with ifs and buts. But do I think we'll bottle it? The answer to your question, Whitey, is I think we already have. But thanks for asking that. We've got a question from Nick, and only Nick will know why, but I can't really read out the question, let alone answer it, because I don't want to get myself into trouble. But he's basically requesting a particular person to come onto the podcast as a guest, and all I can say is absolutely not. So there's your answer, Nick. Sorry to disappoint you, but feel free to throw in some more suggestions. 98% of you will not have a clue what I'm talking about, but I really, really can't read the question out. I just didn't want to be rude to Nick. Right, I'm just kind of scrolling through my phone here. So I've got 3 questions from Julia, so cheers for them. Let's have a look. Of course, we'll have a look. Which one should I start with? Do you think social media has improved or harmed people's relationship with health and fitness? I think that's a very good question. I think the answer, it, it probably has both improved and harmed in a sense. I think if I try and put myself in the shoes of someone who's like a complete beginner when going to the gym, for example, and maybe they don't have the confidence to approach someone on the gym floor to show them how to do an exercise, for example. So what they can do is they can go on like TikTok, for example, and look it up, how do I do a deadlift, for example, and then there'll be videos showing them how to do a deadlift, and then they can try and replicate that themselves. So that in a way is like a positive thing. I think the problem with social media is that absolutely anybody can post stuff on there. You do have like influencers who have lots of followers, but not necessarily the knowledge or the qualifications. Um, and it can be kind of like harmful in that way. I'll give you an example. So if I don't even know when it was, but I think it was like either last week or a few days ago. Some guy called Joe Wicks appeared on a podcast. Don't know if you've heard of him. But yeah, he's done very well for himself, put it that way. But anyway, he was on. Well, I didn't listen to the podcast, but I saw like some clips that come up on the reels. He basically said that you don't need to refuel or hydrate yourself during a marathon, which, I put this on a post last week, actually. I think that's like really terrible advice, like absolutely shocking. Because like if you're like dehydrated and you're not rehydrating yourself during a long run, especially a marathon, you just put in like loads of strain on your organs, like, such as your heart, for example, and, you're just like, lacking the nutrients. So if you're like not rehydrating yourself, you're just gonna, you could, especially if it's like a warm day as well, then you can easily like get heat stroke and severe dehydration. And then, like I say, it just like causes your organs to like not function properly. And then you can also get like injured as well. You can get cramps as well. I mean, whenever I like run a marathon myself personally, typically like I'll have like absolute bare minimum like 3 electrolyte energy gels with me. So I'll have like one after every 10K. If it's like a bit of a hot day, like last year's Manchester Marathon, for example, I think I had 6 or 7 gels with me. And then obviously, like every time there's like a water station, I'll make the most of that as well. Yeah, I think it's like completely stupid and irresponsible to suggest to people they don't need to rehydrate or refuel themselves during the marathon. But the point I'm making is that Joe Wicks, someone like Joe Wicks, has millions and millions of followers on social media. And therefore, what he says carries a lot of weight and carries a lot of responsibility. And because he has that blue tick next to his name and however millions of followers, lots of people are just going to automatically assume that everything that comes out of his mouth is credible and they're not even going to question it. So, in terms of like, can social media harm people's relationship with health and fitness? I think it definitely can. I'm trying to think of like more examples. Really, I think it can be a good thing because you've got some really good people to follow. There's a guy called Jay Alderton. He's basically like an ex-military guy turned PT and entrepreneur, and like quite a few years ago, particularly like when I started out in the industry, I used to watch a lot of his videos and just gained like loads of knowledge in terms of like how to coach people, and also like how to train like certain muscle groups as well. So yeah, things like that like definitely does have a positive impact. But I think like if you're going to follow people on social media, you just kind of like need to sort of decide for yourself really if that information is beneficial or harmful to you. I think, if you ever watch a video of somebody talking about how to lose body fat or how to lose weight, like if they don't mention the phrase calorie deficit in that post or in that podcast or whatever, then yeah, quite frankly, I wouldn't listen to that person, because calorie deficit is literally the formula for fat loss. It really is that simple. You burn more energy than what you consume. You're in a calorie deficit, and that's what helps lose body fat. But I think a lot of people, like, whether it's people in the industry or influencers or people on social media, they just like try to make things overcomplicated, and it really doesn't need to be. So I just think, like, kind of keep it simple and listen to the right people. I hope that's answered your question, Julia. So thank you for that. I'll come on to so Ryan's asked I'm going to answer the other ones of Julia's questions in a minute, but Ryan asked a question: what's my hydration strategy before and during the marathon? So I've kind of just touched on that. But yeah, I kind of like goes without saying, I will, like, if we're talking like the morning of a marathon, yeah, I'll drink like basically like one of these with an electrolyte tablet in there, and then I'll probably just drink like little sips of water between then and the start line as well. Like I say, if it's like kind of like a normal day, so like Rome Marathon, which was quite an overcast day and quite cool, yeah, I'll just like take drinks of water at the hydration stations. But if it's like a really hot day, like Manchester Marathon last year, for example, I actually wore a hydration vest on me, so I had like a litre and a half of water on the back with a straw the entire time. But then, like, for example, when I do Chicago in October, my mate Max pointed this out actually when he like read the rules and the regs. You're not actually allowed to wear one of those hydration vests at the Chicago Marathon for whatever reason. So basically, like with Chicago, I'm just going to hope that it's like an overcast kind of mild day, and then it won't really affect me. But yeah, hope that kind of answers your question a bit, right? Okay, all for one. So we've got three more. So another one from Julia. What's something in fitness that most believe is true but actually isn't? Yeah, good question. I think spending lots of money on stuff you don't necessarily need to do, kind of like the whole all the gear, no idea thing. I think like you don't. I'm kind of like relating this to running. You don't necessarily have to spend 200 quid plus on a pair of running shoes. Um, you can buy just a cheap pair, like 60, 70, 80 quid or whatever, as long as they're comfortable. It doesn't really matter. I think another one as well is kind of like nutrition and supplements. I think lots of people, and I don't want to like tarnish everyone with the same brush or be too generalized, but I think lots of like young lads in the gym, they put a lot of effort and attention into their supplements, like whether it's like whey protein or creatine or BCAAs or whatever it may be, even steroids. I think they put too much emphasis on their supplements, but then like bugger all on their actual nutrition. Whereas it should be the other way around. You need to like get your nutrition in order first, and then have your supplements to supplement your nutrition. I just think, yeah, lots of people think, oh, I'm going to spend 50 quid on my protein or USN, or whatever supplement brand it is, and it's kind of like the look and the style. But actually, yeah, you don't necessarily. I mean, don't get me wrong, supplements are good, but I think it's important to know that like your actual diet and nutrition is more important. I think as well, actually, like there are like lots of myths when it comes to fitness. I'm just trying to think, like, whenever I've worked on the gym floor, like what are the most sort of like common ones I've come across. I think a lot of people will go up to me and ask me something like, oh, how do I get rid of this, like all that fat from my belly, or how do I get rid of my bingo wings? And the answer is you can't like specify what part of your body you lose body fat from. So the term for that is like spot reduction. So the analogy that I use is that if you're emptying water from a swimming pool, you can't just empty one part of a swimming pool. It's just kind of like you know, your empty water from a swimming pool will just come out of wherever. You can't specify it from a certain area. And it's the same with like losing body fat as well. You know, some people carry more body fat in certain areas of their body than others, and a lot of that can be down to genetics, or it can be down to your gender as well. But yeah, like I touched on earlier, if you're in like a calorie deficit, your overall body fat will drop, but you can't like specifically lose it from a specific area of your body. You can't, like, you know, say if you want to lose body fat from your triceps, or if people want to call it your bingo wings, you can't just lose body fat from there and then like nowhere else. So I think that's kind of a myth as well. I think, you know, people think if they do 100 sit-ups a day, they're going to get a six pack and they're going to lose all that, you know, belly fat and, you know, be a belly. It's just, yeah, it's, I really wish it was that simple. Otherwise I'd look like Hercules, but the reality is it's not, and I don't. So yeah, I think they're like the best examples I can come up with off the top of my head in terms of like what most people think is true but actually isn't. I hope I've answered that well, Julia. So yeah, thank you for your question. And then what I'll do, I'll go to Ryan and then I'll go back to Julia. So Ryan's second question: what are the most common causes of lower back pain you've seen since starting MSK or musculoskeletal? Two types, definitely. People in sedentary jobs, so they're spending 8 hours a day sat at a desk, and literally not moving all day. They might get up once or twice a day for 5 minutes to make a brew or get some food. But yeah, just being, you know, excessive sitting, basically really bad, particularly like for your lower back. And then also as well, people in manual jobs as well. So, you know, if you're working in a building site, for example, you're lifting lots of heavy equipment and you're doing lots of twisting and turning, then that can, like, you know, that constant like repetitiveness like can have a strain, you know, on your bones and your joints, particularly in your lower back. And I think also, you know, people in manual jobs probably like poor manual handling techniques as well. I mean, like every company should have manual handling risk assessments and training, and I think like they're probably more like box ticking exercises. And I think, you know, if I go to pick something up off the floor, for example, I'll like keep my back straight and squat down and pick it up. Whereas a lot of people will kind of like bend over and arch their backs to pick it up. And that is like definitely a very common cause of lower back pain and musculoskeletal conditions. And I think just in general, as well, like poor posture as well. So if you're like standing up and your shoulders are sort of like hunched around, and then you can have like kyphosis in your back, so you kind of like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Quasimodo, basically. You know, having that poor posture, you know, creates like lots of then strain on other parts of your body and causes imbalances, and then yeah, you end up just in a lot of pain, and then you lack mobility, lack flexibility, and then, you know, suddenly like doing basic like day-to-day tasks becomes very difficult and very painful, you know, stuff that a lot of us would take for granted. So yeah, I think, you know, in a nutshell, like sedentary lifestyles and also like poor manual handling practices are probably the two most common causes of low back pain. Certainly since I've started my MSK program, you know, there's a lot of recurring themes from when I like meet clients for the first time and go through like their initial assessments and talk about like the causes. So yeah, that I would say that's definitely what they are. So yeah, cheers for that, Ryan. Right, Julia definitely. In fact, she hasn't. She asked me 2 questions or 3 questions. I think she actually asked me 2 questions, but I've screenshot the same question twice. I'm just gonna like very quickly double check. Yeah, she did actually ask me 2 questions and not 3, so apologies for that, Julia. But yeah, thank you, Ryan, Julia, Nick, and Tom, for your questions. Really appreciate it. Yeah, to kind of like go back to your first question, Nick. Yeah, there's more chance of me selling package holidays for a living than me bringing on your requested guest onto the podcast. So I'm just going to like leave that one there, basically. And then yeah, as you can see, I'm like wearing a Linfield shirt as well. So yeah, we we won the league last season. Unfortunately, we didn't win the league this season. We were pretty poor by our standards, and we lost our last game of the season 2-1 to Cliftonville today. So really not good. And Larne won the league. We don't like Larne, but at least Glentoran didn't win it. But anyway, up the Blues. We'll be back stronger next year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Arsenal can go one better. But who knows? But yeah, anyway, that's like your quick bonus Q&A episode over. So yeah, thank you for sending your questions in. Tune in to this Sunday. Tune in 6:00. YouTube and Spotify. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to talk about because honestly, I can't predict what's going to happen over the next 2 days, and you'll know what I'm talking about by the time you listen to episode 11 this Sunday. But yeah, thank you for watching and listening. Thank you for your support. Please like and subscribe, share it with your friends, spread the word, and over the next few weeks, I'll try and get some more guests on as well. So yeah, thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week and see you on Sunday. Ta-ra.